Welcome back. Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know this game?
Take a picture for $5. You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back, outsiders, to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I am your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
.420.
and we got a very, very, very special guest with us here today. I'm gonna let him introduce himself and let our listeners know where they can find him.
What's up, guys? My name is Lauro. You can find me on Instagram at LauroOnDress. And these are the new homies.
Yep. Yes, sir. So, as you guys know, I work in cannabis. One time I was getting a shipment at my store because I am the purchase manager and we were ordering plug and play. I saw this gentleman. He actually had this sweater on that I'm wearing right now. It has a heart with a toroidal field behind it. And I was like, that looks familiar. I've been reading this book that has the same kind of information of that kind of stuff. We got to chopping it up. He read that book back in the day. It's going to be this book called The Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life. Why don't you let them know the name of the company, what it's about, some of the designs you got on it, like the Merkaba with the flower of the seed of life and all that kind of stuff, bro.
So pretty much my brand was inspired through reading these books and going through Drunvalo's workshops that he offers so that, people could experience activating their Merkaba. And after activating it, I was like, I want to reflect this in a way that people could wear something like that,
Yep.
So I was like, that's where I came up with the design. I don't know if you want to show them what the background looks like.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of get it in their subconscious whether they know what it is or not. And then if they're interested in the shape or design, they're going to want to look into it. And like how he saw it on your sweater, he knew. So he knew that you knew. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like if
you're I don't know if you guys can see it. We'll do a picture.
Yeah.
I can show a picture.
I'll throw up a picture of it.
Flashing the camera and stuff. Okay, I'm back. So let them know the name, bro, and then let them know kind of like, because obviously, when you do a brand, especially like the one like yours, it's not only the clothes, but it's not only the aesthetic, but also the message that goes behind it.
Yeah. So I really got inspired by one of Drunvalo's book and the workshop that I specifically took related to that book, which is his Awakening the Illuminated Heart book, which is an in-between book, I believe, of these two. So this is his Serpent of Light book, and then these are the volume 1 and 2 of the Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life. In between these, he dropped an Awakening the Illuminated Heart,
okay,
which is a little bit more friendlier, step-by-step process of activating your Merkaba.
Okay.
Because in the step process that he teaches us in these books, it's a little bit trickier. It's like an 18-breath step. And
oh, yeah. I have that bookmarked in this book, and I kind of just bookmarked it so I can come back to it when I kind of understood more about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
These books, which is one book because it's a part 1 and part 2, they're basically based off of like a 2 or 3 hour lecture, right? As far as I understand, they're based off a 2 or 3 hour lecture that he's done, and then they they put it into a book.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a lot of his teachings just put into the book.
It's super condensed.
It's a little bit of everything, lectures, travels he's had, like all type of journeys,
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So can you tell us a little bit more about that workshop?
Yeah, so I directly got the name Corazones Iluminados from the workshop. The workshop is called Awakening the Illuminated Heart.
Okay.
Illuminated Heart in Spanish is Corazón Iluminados,
yep.
Pretty much. So that's where I kind of played on that. And I did this workshop in like 2016. And shout out to my teacher, Paul Ramirez. He's the one that walked me through the process. And it was like a 3-day workshop, right? Mm-hmm. And we go through all these processes of kind of like preparing your body, your aura, the space for you to step into like your Merkaba, right? Because you have to hold like a certain frequency, a certain energy. And I guess that frequency energy is best described as unconditional love.
Mm.
And
let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
This is based off of balancing all your energy centers, which is also based not only strictly physical, but emotional and spiritual as well.
Yeah, I would say that as well.
Okay, nice. Sure. Go ahead, keep going.
And yeah, you know, it was a process. There's a lot of minor details that went into it, and I would definitely recommend if you guys could get yourself in a workshop with a facilitator, definitely go through the process. But I actually heard back from my teacher in October. He was with Drunvalo in Sedona.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
This past October in 2024.
Okay.
That's crazy.
And there's going to be some new stuff dropping from Drunvalo here soon.
So give me one second. Just to go ahead and let them know who Drunvalo Melchizedek is, and his kind of journey and his story into how he got his information and his teachings.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he started off like a regular guy like us, you know. I don't really know too much about him, but from what I do know, I think, you know, he was just going about his life, and I think like all of us, you know, we get little glimpses throughout our lives before we fully like embark on a specific, you know, like awakened journey, that you get little glimmers of like, yo, there's something a little bit more than like that I could pick up on, you know. And then I think he just slowly started getting these experiences, and he started following the synchronicities, and I think it just led him to all the information that he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a theory that a lot of the guys that were studying like ancient knowledge and stuff like that, like a lot of the Masons and stuff back in the day, like Leonardo da Vinci and like all the Theosophists and stuff like that, they were getting this knowledge from like a certain like level of consciousness, like Nikola Tesla. That's why
it's almost like how they say some rappers, they go in a trance, which they're almost someone speaking through them.
That flow state.
Yeah. Which is why most of those guys, like Leonardo da Vinci, not only was he a scientist and a mathematician, but he was also heavily involved in spirituality and philosophy and stuff like that as well.
Occult
the
type
same
shit.
thing with Plato. Gnosticism was based on Plato's teachings and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of math.
I think it all goes hand in hand.
Absolutely,
it starts showing itself as like, there's one aspect to it here, there's another aspect to it here.
Yeah, because the crazy thing was, he was seeing and communicating with Thoth.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to my spiritual awakening before I started reading this. And then when I started researching more into it, that's what led me to these books. And there's certain texts and certain knowledge that my path has just led me to. So it's crazy that you say it like that, because it always shows you that life is always pushing you in a certain direction for a certain reason.
Gives you hints.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, you know, we don't really believe in coincidences. It's more synchronicities.
Patterns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, no, I mean, you know, for me too, it was like, I kind of always had little spiritual, quote unquote, moments, you know, experiences where you're like, whoa, like, what was that? Or like a deja vu, a synchronicity that just stood out more.
Yeah.
To me in that time frame when I wasn't really, I guess, quote unquote, spiritual. But,
Yeah.
you know, I definitely had a life experience where I was like, well, there's way more to this. Like,
is that something significant that happened to you?
Oh yeah, I when I was 15 years old, I OD'd in my room.
What?
At like 3 a.m.
Get the fuck out of here,
I'm glad you're still here, bro.
And I was floating above my body, and I was looking at myself. I was like holding my heart because I felt like I was having a heart attack, and all of a sudden I'm floating above my body, and I'm like, am I dead? And then I'm like, wait, if I'm dead, how can I hear myself? And how can I think? And I immediately snapped back into my body, and I was like, bro, there's more to this life stuff.
I had a similar experience on DMT where I hit the DMT on my couch. All of a sudden, I'm above myself, looking at myself passed out on the couch, and I'm like, if I'm here, who's that? Type shit. Damn. You know what I mean? So it really made me know that there's something separate from the conscious and the physical body. Yeah. Because how can I think and all this stuff, but I'm looking at myself, right? Wow. And not only that, let's take it a step further. I saw myself touch my leg, but felt it in the third person.
Wow.
Just trippy shit, and then that's when I went back into my physical self, but was still in the DMT trip. Like, but it just blew my mind because I've heard of outer body experiences, but once you actually have one, it just, you question reality for sure, because you're like, all right, well, obviously I'm me, but who was that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. When you had that experience, was that what led you to reading this book?
I feel like it was part of it. You know,
or
I was
did it
already
kind of come along like down the line a little bit, kind of like in a...
I think I was already picking up on a lot of the things in this field, you know, like I was already very interested in like psychedelic medicines. and I was like learning about like chakras, and like I just started to dibble dabble in meditating and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also in a like dark place at that time. I had just got in some trouble. I was like in probation for like 9 months. I was taking piss tests every 3 days a week, just to stay like in a school district. Because they were trying to expel me, but I had the best grades in that school district at the time. So
that's usually how it goes,
You have
bro.
to be in the darkness to see the light, bro.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. You haven't truly seen light unless you've been in a really dark place.
Yeah.
Because that's where it shines the most.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked about it's funny when you were talking about deja vu, I started to think I was talking about on TikTok deja rev. Do you know what deja rev is? Deja rev is when you dream something and then I'll forget that I dream it, obviously, because I don't really keep track of my dreams, but then it'll happen to me like later in life and I'll be like,
I have the same dreams all the time, bro, and it trips me out because while you're dreaming you won't realize it until you woke up and you're like, wait a minute, that was too familiar. This has happened before. And it's real trippy.
Yeah, I've had a lot about that where I dream of something and then like a year later, like that same exact thing. Like I don't know if it's like a timeline that like we align with, or it like just syncs up and then you just get chills all on your body and you're like,
because one of my dreams I'm like by my mom's house and I know I'm by my mom's house, but the streets look different. And like months later, I'm in that same area where I'm by my mom's house, but the streets look different, but they look the same as months before in my other dream. Wow. So it's like
a continuous.
Yeah, it's like, is that
maybe it's a parallel reality?
Is that a parallel reality, or is that just memory kind of remembering?
It's funny that you bring that up because when we were talking to our other guest that did mushrooms and was communicating with though, he was saying the same thing, that I had parallel realities and actually had this different car. And I remember I would drive here to this place and go back around to this place. And that was like my little routine and shit in that reality. And that was just like that reality. It was just like, like, and basically, I think that's what this is, bro. This symbolizes that there's one reality here, but stacked on top of them, there's different multiple realities existing in the same moment, but time doesn't exist.
That's what I was going to say, because think about it. If you sleep for 3 hours, you're going to think you dreamt a week and a half. So that's where the time is just like, but doing DMT, you learn that time is a construct, bro. Dude, it does not exist.
Yeah, there's this dude that did DMT on my that I follow on TikTok, and he lived a whole parallel life, just like Ari Shaffir.
Ari Shaffir underwater.
When he did the salvia.
Yep.
And my theory is, I posted TikToks about this too. My theory is that he was an Atlantean in a past life. And he fucking snapped into like his.
But he's a Jew.
Yeah. But yeah, bro. I was gonna ask you, bro. Can you talk a little bit about the Merkaba, what that is, and maybe a little bit about the Merkaba meditation and how that can balance the field around you and what that is supposed to do for you in your life and what it's supposed to do with the energy and others around you?
Mm-hmm. So the Merkaba, from what I understand, is our light body, right? And I think it's also like a spaceship. In ancient texts, they called it the chariot of the gods.
Yeah.
It was like
Ezekiel.
Yeah, there's so many different renditions of it, but I think you get glimmers of like, oh, this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a way to connect to like those external energy pathways that we already all have within us but we need to reactivate them to come back into that state of remembrance, because we're multidimensional beings. I think just as much as we're 3D, I think we're just equally 5D.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, and it's crazy that you say that, because I tell people, and the way I feel like it is when I start to like, I feel like I'm relearning things instead of learning things. So it's almost like a remembering, like, oh shit, like this is actually what I am.
It's familiar.
And this is actually how like everything is designed and why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's part of that. It's like that remembering. Because I don't know, there's some things out there that say, before we come into this lifetime, we kind of scrap our memory.
It's like a spiritual amnesia.
Yeah, to go into the journey just to figure it out and learn as we live.
I mean, in the intro of our podcast, you'll hear the last line I say is, you have a duty here, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Exactly. So I think, for me at least personally, in my experience, activating my Merkaba was a part of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like, this was something that I've already had. but I kind of probably was like, I bet you I could do it again, and I'm gonna figure it out. And I'm figuring it out in a way to be able to share it with everyday people like, you know, us here now, to help others as well.
That's why we started the podcast.
Yeah.
I actually sent them something yesterday. I looked up my last name and the origins, remember? And it's, it was to illuminate.
Yeah.
So, like, far along the line somewhere, my last name is to illuminate.
There you go, you know?
You know, it's all, you know, like I said, not a coincidence.
No, not at all. So...
Let me ask you this, since you went through the activation class and all that kind of stuff. I believe it's 18 step, but there's a 19 step that he talks about, and he's like, I don't want to talk about the 19 step here because naturally you're gonna know how to do it. And I can't tell you what's gonna happen here because if you do it now, there's no telling what's gonna happen. He says something along the lines of that.
Yeah, I think it'll
I'm not even gonna ask you what it is, but were you able to naturally know what it is when you got to the 18 step?
So I didn't do the 18-step process. I did the process that he talks about more in the Awakening the Illuminated Heart, but I was explained the 19th step, which in the process that I learned isn't like a 19th step. It's that last step.
Is it just more like reaching the next stage?
It's more like a consciousness thing, right? Like, kind of, you just know.
Man, I don't know how to break it down. I don't know if like, pretty much... From what I've been told, you know, you could almost like shift into another dimension.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's no need to do that, you know, because you might mess up other timelines. It's there's
a show there's a series I want to watch with you about that. About going to different timelines and how it can affect stuff.
I've heard, right? This is just what I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but people have actually shifted out of like this reality. Like,
really?
I believe it.
Well, that's
like
what
they
I
vibrate into another timeline, a higher dimension fully.
Isn't that what like the Buddhas are, and like the avatars, and like the ascended
like the
masters,
rainbow body,
and then they can come back when they want to, right? Because that's basically what Thoth did, right? That's why he had to meditate in order to stay in this dimension because he's already at like a higher frequency, right? And he talks about it with Drunvalo. He's like, yeah, I have to meditate for like it was like crazy, like 8 hours a day or something like that in order to stay in this dimension. And Drunvalo Melchizedek was like, actually, I could show you like a different way to where you can get to that state of mind where you don't have to do it as much.
It's the story of, the Buddha studied 20 years to be able to walk on water. But he came to walk on water and the guy next to him said, yeah, but the ferry's only a nickel. You know what I mean? Like, you can waste 20 years, but you can just do this.
Yeah, and I don't even think, like, in that aspect, like, you're wasting time. I think that's just our specific...
It's not a waste. It's just the fact that you could kind of get to certain places without doing the full, thing.
Yeah. Right. But I was going to say, even if you do the full thing, I think that's just that specific person's journey. Like,
100%. I agree. 100%. I agree.
Just because, because like this 18-step process that he describes in the book, I tried to do it by myself.
It's discipline.
For like 4 years and I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of confusing too, like the way they explain it, and like plus like you're reading a text and like you don't really. I feel like you might be a little bit more successful in learning how to do it if you had someone facilitating to you how to do it step by step.
Exactly.
Like,
that's.
I kind of started reading it because I would flip through it. I'd flip through the whole book and be like, I'd sort of stop at certain chapters. I'm like, oh, meditation. Like, what is this? And I'd read through the steps and I was like, that kind of looks kind of complicated. When I get to it, I kind of just read through it. I didn't really try it too much, and then I kind of just went to the next stuff. But yeah, it's a very interesting book, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like I'm a different type of learner too. Some people learn by seeing things, some people learn differently, and
learn by doing it.
Yeah, I really needed a facilitator to like break it down for me because, man, I mean, it took 3 days for me to activate something that I had been trying to do by myself for 4 years.
Oh wow! And that's when you took the class.
Yeah, and it was like over a weekend. And
how'd you feel?
Man, that moment when I activated my Merkaba, it felt like
relief.
Every cell in my body had like this
rejuvenated.
No, it just like a sun like grew from within it, and it just like shed a layer of skin, and it just like upgraded. I got hot flashes within that moment, and I started sweating like just.
For no reason,
for like 15 minutes.
For a reason, but
for a reason,
but
it was really like it felt like
a release.
I felt like I stepped. Yeah, it was like a release. I was definitely shedding something. That was like super heavy.
You're shedding your old self, kind of going into new light, and which was for the better.
Yeah, and
it's amazing.
it was just very interesting. I had to step outside for like 15 minutes and ground myself because I couldn't comprehend what was going on.
And then after that, you just did research, right?
No, well, we did a test with dowsing rods at the end of it that my teacher had. Shout out Paul again. And
we'll shout him. We'll tag him in if he wants.
Yeah, we should tag him for sure.
We'll tag him and stuff.
You guys, if anyone's interested in going through this process and activating your macabre, I would definitely recommend you guys reach out to Paul.
Yeah, I'll throw him in here.
In the SoCal area, and I'm even considering retaking it just to retake it, just to pick up maybe some things that I forgot about.
Yeah, it's really all about balance, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's
the yin and the yang.
There's a diagram. I'm gonna have him pull it up, but it's the tree of life. And then basically you have like Malkut here, and then you have Ketzer here, which is basically like the divine light or source or God, and then you have him right here, basically like they explain in the Kabbalistic tradition that the soul's journey is from going from here, being born, going all the way down, and then to go back up basically to enlightenment.
Yeah. And
with that being said, I believe once you go back to enlightenment and you come back down, you're supposed to hang in a balance like above it, because you kind of know that you're a man, but you have the essence of that. So you're up here basically. And that's why a lot of the symbols can be found on that actual diagram placed over it, like the Ankh or the cross, or even for like the Norse people, it's like a lightning bolt, because it shows a path from up, down, and balance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about like sacred geometry, and maybe symbols or lessons and stuff that are encoded in those kind of shapes and stuff like that you can think of off the top of the head, maybe?
Man, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. At this point, I don't see anything outside of not having like its own electromagnetic field.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything has a source of energy, and I think in everything there's a little bit of sacred geometry. Like look at this mic. The way it's kind of like in a circle, but it's opening up. It's kind of like the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
It gets wider as we go. So it's hard for me not to see sacred geometry in everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the basis for me now.
The more you learn about it, the more you catch it on like a commercial or a music video, and it's like what they're doing is they know they're putting it there for a reason to get it subconsciously in your brain. But once you know the stuff and understand, it's when it's a little different.
Yeah.
And you can start to break down, why it's there.
I understand why that logo is
why
so
they
appealing
put
to
that
me,
there.
because
Yeah.
it looks balanced because of this reason. Yep.
It's pleasing to the brain,
Oh, yeah.
not to the eye, to the brain.
Yeah, there's something like very subconsciously ingrained in us that we recognize those things when they're kind of presented in a way, and it's like,
I mean, that goes back to like, commercials back in the day where they would flash something real quick. You wouldn't physically really see it, but your subconscious brain will catch it.
Yeah, and it's gonna hold on to it.
It'll hold on to it.
You don't even realize.
You don't even realize it.
Yeah, it's all about balance, and like basically the 7 chakras that align with like the 7 virtues, that align with like the 7 deadly sins, that align with like the 7 archangels, that align with like the 7 archons, that align with like the 7 guardians and the emerald tablets. And it's all about balancing yourself so that when you do experience the Kundalini awakening, you're not stopped by these demons,
yeah,
because demons are basically negative manifestations of your chakras imbalance, and it all has to do with mental.
It's all within you
and physical.
It's all within you. It's you.
Principle of mentalism.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the Kabbalion?
No, I haven't.
No.
I have heard of it though. And
it's,
I know
it's just basically the 7 universal laws.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit more about the Serpent of Light, bro.
So the Serpent of Light goes into how he was talking about the Earth's Kundalini actually moving from the Tibetan mountains into the Peruvian mountain range.
Oh, wow.
So the Andes mountain range. And kind of that being what, people thought the end of the Mayan calendar was going to be
the end of the world.
2012, yeah. So I couldn't tell you the specific date. Maybe it was on 2012, but there was a shift within planet Earth. And the Earth's Kundalini has now moved to, the more southern side of the Andes Mountains. I would say like around that Peru area. So what he explains in the Serpent of Light is that a lot more wisdom and knowledge that is going to help catapult us into the next level of like human consciousness is going to be deriving from there.
It's also like the age of Aquarius, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's where we're entering, and that's the age of knowledge and stuff.
Right. So personally, like before then, I think, well, at least I knew that there was already a lot of like indigenous wisdom coming out of that area. You know, we think like Peru,
That's where Machu Picchu is too, right?
Yeah, like Brazil. They also, you know, there's a lot of indigenous tribes there who, you know, still practice a lot of things from their ancestors that you could trace it back another 1,000 years. You know, and medicines like you know, ayahuasca.
Yeah, all holistic medicines.
Those, you know, like they've kind of been known, you know, but I think now it's kind of more time for the collective to experience a little bit more of that wisdom and try to integrate it into everyday life all around the world.
I mean, real quick, I mean, like, let's go to Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan. Like, they've all done DMT.
Yeah.
They all did acid. Yeah. How do you think the Windows computer was made, bro? They were doing acid.
And and not only that, but it's just, you see it a lot more now. People are becoming a lot more compassionate, but I don't know if it's just my algorithm, but I don't think it is. But a lot more people are like talking about like spirituality and consciousness, and like talking about like that whole nature of reality, Hermeticism, Gnosticism, the ancient knowledge, and all that kind of stuff. Like, so many people are speaking about it now, as opposed to like 5 or 10 years ago.
I think the algorithm is a big factor in why more people are being awakened to it, because whether you're into it or not, you're gonna run across a post when you're scrolling, scrolling. You're gonna run across a post, and when you see that there's more than 20 people talking about this stuff, you know there's something there, and if you're interested, you're gonna research. And then I think that's what's been happening since 2020. I think because they were locked down, everyone was locked down, more time to be on the internet, more time to research, and then of course all the conspiracy theorists with the vaccine and stuff, they're going hard. So people are like, well, why are these people going hard? Let me look into stuff, and it takes you down a whole different spiritual journey.
Yeah, not only that, but it's funny that we talk about the algorithm, because we speak in the algorithm to where it's about the algorithm to where it's like we're speaking about something that we interface with directly inside of a different universe of knowledge itself. But also, that's also how it works within the universe itself. So yeah, the internet and
the collective algorithm, the collective conscious.
But we also have a algorithm within the universe that operates with our subconscious and conscious,
that universal conscious
gives us those synchronicities that we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Which is like, you know, I met you on a delivery 1-2 years ago. Now we chopping it up about the same book that we read.
And it's the more you know about this stuff, you start ignoring it was a coincidence that like, no, you were meant to meet this dude and do something. Like, there's a reason why he was there and into the same stuff, and that doesn't happen by coincidence with how small. Like, even right now, like, the people like us, it's still kind of small compared to the rest of the world. There's a lot of people awake, but it's still kind of small. So to run across somebody that's like that, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Do you, let me ask you this. He talks about a lot about, like, Atlantis and Lemuria. What do you know about that kind of stuff?
I wouldn't say I know too much, you know. Like, I feel like I've read a lot of what maybe you've read too. Personally, like, I feel like it's kind of surface level with me. Like, I'm not going to speak about it like that.
Okay, no worries. I just asked about it because he does talk about it a little bit in this book. And then I have been looking into other people like Dolores Cannon, Rudolf Steiner, Edgar Cayce, and other people who are like connected to like the higher levels and like Akashic records and stuff like that. And they talk about people who have past life regressions that like remember those times. Not only that, but when people are like remote viewing like the past through their Akashic records, they're like seeing these events take place and talking about these civilizations. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, if we're light beings, but we're matter, where we're just slowed down matter and shit, basically they're talking about these civilizations that knew how to shape these pyramids and the stuff around them through sound. But not only that, but they were more fluid than us. They were more light beings than massive beings. So if they were that before, and then we fell in consciousness, not only fell in consciousness, but we also fell from light to mass. We're more mass beings, and we also have to shed the material. That's kind of like most of the ancient practices. Not only do you have to basically shed your material possessions and kind of just attachments, basically. It's kind of like also us slowly moving back into being light beings, I think. And I think what's going to happen is, as time progresses, we're going to be able to have societies where we are shifting the reality around us. It's basically, I think, is going to be like a lucid dream. You know what I'm saying? I think reality is going to become more fluid with the dimensions above us until we shift into that higher dimension. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think Atlantis and Lemuria fit into where we used to be and where we're going.
Absol has a line. He says, "We're in a place where matter don't matter, just spirit molecules and geometric patterns."
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's the truest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's how I think.
Yeah, and the more you research and the more you look into, and even just looking at and drawing sacred geometry, you start to kind of
and then you get into angles and learn the significance of different angles and why they call it the order of 9 angles and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's deep.
There's so much that is intertwined into this. That's why I'm saying it's like everything. Everything has a little bit of piece of what I like to call like the medicine that brings us back to like our more truer version of ourselves as individuals and as a collective. Because I think we will get back to Lemuria, Atlantis, but I think we're gonna like do it 2 or 3 times even better. Yeah. Because it's just part of that cycle.
Yeah, because I heard someone say before, he was like, Atlantis is basically like a state of mind.
It's a consciousness.
And it makes sense that it would exist in a higher dimension, especially because in higher dimensions, time doesn't exist the way it does here. Time is just linear here because we're so dense, right? We're so mass,
And they made a fucking clock for us to live by.
Yeah. No, I think it's just the collective conscious. I think once all of us as individuals kind of start working together towards that together by ourselves and holding ourselves accountable and our own energy, accountable, then I think that's when a lot more of us are gonna be able to be like telepathic and, tap into a lot of these psychic abilities or these very lucid states that we hear about people being able to tap into like Atlantis and Lemuria, that we're gonna get back into that state of consciousness.
I just want to tell anybody listening, even if you don't believe this, you don't have to look into it. Just look into it. Just put your fucking phone down, stop doom scrolling, and pick up a book or just watch somebody break it down on YouTube.
You like to watch movies.
You watch, and then sacrifice your Netflix 2 hours and find someone breaking these books down. Find someone just giving you basic knowledge on, your consciousness and all that other stuff, and just kind of give it a thought. You don't have to fully believe in it.
The crazy thing is when you start to research in this knowledge and you learn some of like the other like stories or myths or whatever, you'll see them being like recycled in like film and movie and stuff like that. You'll be like, oh shit, like that's Norse mythology. That's Lord of the Rings basically. Like they just basically broke it down.
The people who make your favorite TV shows, your favorite movies,
Dragon Ball Z,
your favorite musicians, they know about this higher consciousness. They know about these higher occult or higher spirituality people. They know that's in all their music videos, and if it's not them, it's their director. It's out there and it's being put in front of your face. So the more you look into it, you'll see it and understand why these things are out there.
Yeah. And then you can understand why some people will break that down and they'll just look at the whole other side of it and be like, oh, like that's Satanism, that's paganism.
That's why we look at halftime Super Bowl shows different than the average person, because we know that's the most people in the world are watching that. That's all their energy focused on one thing. So what do? You do a ritual on stage, right? It goes back to Crowley being the grand master, in front of everybody.
And I feel like if you know what's going on, whatever black magic they're trying to do on you, it
doesn't work on you.
Because it's like going to a car salesman.
Well, because you're not putting your undivided attention. You're looking for it from a different view, knowing that they're doing these symbols. Exactly. So you're not taking it in.
Absorbing it.
Exactly. So the more you learn, the more you know.
Yeah. So is there anything that you do on maybe like a daily or like a weekly that kind of helps you stay balanced or keep that Merkaba balanced around you personally?
So my Merkaba is always going to be activated moving forward from that moment when I first activated it.
Absolutely.
So I don't really do any specific practices. I like to try to take a moment every day to like be in tune with my breath, and I bring in prana energy from both ends, and I kind of replenish myself with prana into my physical body, and then to my aura, and then into my Merkaba. But I honestly haven't been meditating as much as I used to before. I used to have like a really good discipline of sitting down every night before I go to sleep, like 2 hours before I plan on going to sleep. I sit in front of my altar. I just sit there and meditate. I do some of the movements that are taught in this book, or that were taught to me by Paul, that were taught through the Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshop. And but honestly, I feel like it comes in and out for me. And I think I feel the calling when I need to the most, or when I'm about to get a very profound download.
Okay.
And certain things just start unraveling for me in certain ways, and I start meeting certain people.
It's the synchronicity.
It's just,
like,
the movement starts happening. And I try not to like force it,
No, never.
Sometimes you
just
let it happen. Let it happen.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm gonna meditate, and I'm gonna.
That's when it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this before I ask you the next question. Can you explain real quick what prana is for the people that won't know?
It's just light energy. It's I would say like it's electromagnetic energy.
It's like the energy you get from source and from grounding yourself.
Everything is intertwined. Okay. It's everything. It's what the sun is shooting out. The earth has its own electromagnetic field. Everything has its own electromagnetic field, and every electromagnetic field has a point of non-polarity, meaning like the 0 point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that 0 point is kind of where you land into to activate your Merkaba individually, and everything that's alive, everything that has energy or anything has a 0 point. That's how you tap into that Akashic records within yourself. Everything is at that 0 point. Everything has a 0 point.
Let me ask you this. You said something about getting downloads and stuff like that. And I think maybe you were speaking from, you said something about getting downloads, and what I feel like that is, at least maybe for me, it's like maybe like when a super dope lyric comes to me from a song that's like super like double entendre, or maybe I have this idea to where it's just like, oh damn, like I just understand this like on a higher level now. Like when I have my Kundalini awakening, it started with me being like, oh shit, Albert Einstein's a genius. I started to really understand the theory of general relativity, like space, time, and gravity. They're all related. For some reason, I was thinking about it in my garage, and then like 5 minutes later, I'm like in my bathroom, like fucking seeing a vision of the Buddha. But I say that to ask you what you mean when you say downloads, and then if you can share with us, maybe you had recently, if there is any that you can share.
Yeah, so what I mean by it's just kind of like how you mentioned, it's just kind of like an epiphany, something that happens, something that comes through that seems like, okay,
it's like a doorway
for a reason. Open. Yeah, it's kind of like someone just like unlock the door for you, and you just happen to be right there like, wait, did that unlock for me? And then you open the door and you're like, oh, all right, cool. And honestly, you want to hear about a funny download that just came?
Yes.
I was driving the other day. I was stuck on the 405.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, I was just sitting there, and randomly, I kind of heard this voice being like, "You're gonna be speaking about Drunvalo soon," and then you hit me up, like 4 or 5 days later.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of anticipated this already.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's not a coincidence, bro.
You know, it's crazy.
Even though we've already been like, "Yo, we need to chop it up," we never spoke about what specifically we're gonna come talk about.
You know, what's crazy.
That's what we're talking about, guys.
I was meditating this morning, and I haven't really been meditating too much, and I was just thinking, I was like, I'm really, really in tune right now. I'm going to see if I could just, predict something about my day that I think that I can just foresee coming. I'm saying, like, I'm going to have Lauro, and he said, instead of being there at 3, I'm going to be there at 3:30. Because I told you, let's meet at 4. Yeah. So I think in your mind, you're thinking, let's meet at 4. And then you had hit me up, you're like, I'm leaving at 3:45. And I'm like, okay, bet. Actually, he's going to be here at 4. And I was thinking about it myself. I'm like, all right, I don't have to be there at 3 anymore. I could just tell Todd I'm going to be there at 3:30. So in reality, when I was meditating earlier, instead of you saying you're going to be there at 3:30, I actually realized that I'm going to be there at 3:30.
And trip out. I woke up at 2 o'clock, right? Because I woke up early, fell back asleep. And then that's when you were texting me.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo, we're actually going to be, and I was like, cool, because I had just set my alarm for 2:30, and I was like, you know what I mean? It lines up, bro. Like, and I came here, I pulled up right when you pulled up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But real quick about the Akashic Records. Remember when I was telling my story, my DMT trip?
Break it down again, yeah.
And you guys brought it up, the Akashic Records, because I wasn't looking at it from that perspective. But on one of my trips, everything turned golden, and there was a golden lady, and she was flying me through what I can only describe. Let's picture New York's buildings, but library bookshelves. And they're all golden. Everything was golden. And we were flying, I can only describe as fast as light.
Wow.
through it, but it's like turning, and it's like a never-ending library, you know, and I didn't know what it meant, but I did look at it as taking in some sort of knowledge, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But when you guys brought up Akashic Records, it's a little deeper, you know, and it's like, yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I bet you if you stopped and peeked into one of those domains,
Exactly.
it would be an alternate dimension or universe or reality or life.
Yeah, because I never saw the face of the golden lady.
Yeah.
But I think
she
you
was
just
fine.
needed to pick up on that energy. You just need to experience that just to kind of be like, whoa, this is here, you know? Sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you don't even need to go a little too deep into it, you know? Sometimes you just need to experience it, and it can just be the experience that activates you.
Even that itself was profound to me. Even when I woke up, I was like, there's a reason everything was golden. Because I've done DMT before, like, you know, and it's every trip is different, but this was pure golden. And the trippy part, I think this is a big factor, is because I was listening to Absol Heavy, and one of his songs, he says unisex turned golden during her DMT trip, and it echoed in my brain as I was going to another dimension. So that kind of like played a part, but it, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy. Well, man, this
great
has been
episode.
a very, very good episode. I can't wait to release this and show the people. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Anything you want to leave us with? Any shout outs you want to make? Let us know where they can find you. All that kind of good stuff.
First, just thank you guys for having me here.
Absolutely.
I think thank you for anyone who's watching this, you know, and got anything from this, is gonna dive deep into it on their own. I would say stay grounded, guys. You know what I'm saying? Go get your feet.
Take
out
your
on the
socks
ground.
and shoes off.
Yeah.
Go stand on some grass, not asphalt, grass.
Yeah, we'll walk around barefoot on some grass. You know, go hug a tree. You know, be a tree hugger. You know, go get your feet in the sand. You know, take a moment, you know, put your phone down, take a little walk. And, you know, it's okay to slow down sometimes, you know, because living in LA, you know, it's like, I call
Life's
it microwave society. You
Yeah.
know, it's like boom, 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 boom. And I find myself getting quite ungrounded sometimes, you know, and sometimes you just need to like, it's all right, just take a deep breath, you know, and go do a little breath work for yourself.
We're so designed, especially in this society, especially around here, because a lot of the career fields and a lot of the paths people want to take, whether it's, you know, they want to be a rapper, they want to be an actor, they just we want to be on top of something, or I want to have this many followers or whatever. It's always like fast, consistency, keep going every day, and it's easy to get lost in the sauce of like trying to go 100 miles per hour.
That's why they call it the system, because you're just stuck in it, doing the same thing, trying to get to that place, and it's a system. Yeah, and I agree, man. I tell people, and I try to practice this myself, is just, especially if it's a nice day out and the sky's blue as fuck, stand outside.
I'm walking to work and I'm like, I catch myself smiling like, oh shit, like, damn, the sky's blue as fuck, like, and then in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta remember, like, I created this, but I also have to let go of the ego of the I, because it's not really I, it's like, it's more like, this was created and I was a part of the creation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I created this, but at the same time, when you're saying that, you got to shed the ego a little bit, and it's kind of more like, damn, like this is, existence is just beautiful, bro. Like you just got to exist in the now and shit, because if you don't exist in the now, there's almost, and I'm going to say there's no point, but it's like,
don't worry about the past, don't focus on the future. Yeah. You don't know what's going to happen. It's just, there only is the now. That's it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well, thank you for coming. Let them know where they can find you, bro.
You can find me on Instagram at Lauro Rodriguez. Hopefully they throw it in the description down there.
I'll put it right here on the screen.
Yes, sir.
And right there you can find the link on my bio for the website on Corazones Iluminados.
Support.
That's where you can find my merch right here.
Support.
If you resonate with it, and I hope you guys all have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. Thank you, outsiders. Stay live, stay outside. I'm Stilo Free. This is
Drunvalo 20.
Peace.